This wasn't in the story. Oh well, got the fans asking questions. Don't ask, don't tell. She saw the awe in my aura and said she'll help fill the hole in my heart. No Yuki-Ora or the Hime with the hands, Ichigo with the plans. Get to Gaten show when the show really begins. But until then, this the part when we in the park and the villain chillin' with us playing sports. He tries to eat my fries, he failed cause of a sport. He gave my girl the eye, of course she called him a dork. Guard status and we stat padding. Low-key and infinite rolled and it feels like I'm backpacking. But I got all I need, really napping or relaxing, but reflecting on the journey till this time frame collapses and it's back to the action. If it's not you plus me, then it's subtraction. Not bad though.
Only tonight I don't want to be alone.
Not bad for a filler. Had to wear my jacket, Michael Jackson with the Thriller. Saw that look over her shoulder, wanted action, so I did it. That's a crime of passion. I was acting like a villain, hollow-fied by my pride. In the absence of my feelings, they can suddenly arise when the logic turns to wisdom. I've been a demon slayer after disappearing children. Felt invincible, but like them, really only half was filtering. Not bad for a filler. You know I usually skip those round other people's feelings. It's rare that I tiptoe. You see manipulation when the virtues are signaled. You feel anticipation when the drilling is this strong, like Gurren Lagann. But who could say that I'm wrong? She agreed upon it. But when I shoot my shot, it's more like shotting, got it down. Yeah, I'm it, but not a clown.
One thing I say a lot, typically when I'm recording, but I haven't posted a lot of those videos, is that you have to win the game to change the rules, right? Like, one thing I really want to stress to you is that sometimes having an integrated mentality with a woman, right, who is prematurely integrated, it can be prematurely integrated on your side. And let me explain what I mean by that, right? Let me explain what I mean by that. If a woman isn't confident in herself, right? If a woman isn't secure within herself and secure in her feminine security for her desire to be with you, to build with you, to sleep with you, to have a relationship with you, then handling things with her as far as validational loops, you may not actually be connected to her validational loops. You may actually be paying her with validation where she makes a logical decision that isn't coming from an integrated space in order to do the things that stroke your ego. Let me explain what I mean, right? See, what you got to understand is that a woman oftentimes is going to want to, regardless of if she expresses this or not, she's going to want to earn your approval, to want to earn your validation. Right? When you're in an integrated relationship, what you're able to do is to transmute energy. Right? You're able to be in love. And when I say in love, it's a delusion. Whether or not this is a positive delusion or a negative delusion depends wholly on that relationship dynamic, right? So what can this mean? If you're in a long-term relationship, once you get beyond the grass is greener on the other side mentality, you are able to look at the things a woman does for you and with you, and to add extra value to it because it's her, because it's your relationship, because you're doing it together. And when you do this, you may be so focused on the moment rather than comparative value that a woman from that space of being unconditionally validated or being given more credit than she's actually earned can start to grow entitled towards the level of validation that she's receiving. And if a woman in an insecure space starts to become more secure, she's oftentimes going to go through what I call the glow up principle. Let's say you treat your woman like she's the most beautiful woman on the planet, right? And you talk to her that way. And it doesn't even have to be a lie. When you're in love with somebody, this is a self-delusion, right? But understand that until she's done her own shadow work, she's not going to appreciate this. She's going to appreciate it, but from a logical space. And oftentimes what's going to happen is she's going to feel more drawn to somebody who she has to earn herself to gain their approval. Right? Now, she's already received your approval. This is where it's going to be a little bit of a tough thing when it comes to premature integration. If she's already received your approval, already received your validation, then you withdrawing that validation outside of instances in which she sees herself as being wrong. She sees herself as being wrong. Or it's believable. She's going to simply see it as a game. And from that place, she's going to eventually gain the power, gain the internal strength to also play that game back with you. This doesn't mean that she still doesn't have that desire to earn approval, to chase validation. It just means that your validation doesn't hold the same value because she believes she already has you. Right? This is the paradox of premature integration. Because you already love her, your validation holds less value than a man who doesn't like her. It's hard, I know it is, but it's the truth of the matter. Because you already love her, your validation holds less value than that of a man who does not even like her. Doesn't necessarily even have to be all that much more attractive. He just has to have something different than you that she can attach her insecurities and limerence to. Something that attaches to her childhood wounds. You can be that guy to other women, right? You can be that guy to other women, to where other women feel that way about you. And it's going to give her a little bit of an ego boost, even if you have other women. But understand this, part of that ego boost of knowing you have other women and still value her, it comes from a place of feeling like she's special because you're choosing her over those other women. And she's not going to understand the reason why. Right? So when you're in a prematurely integrated relationship, you really have, well, I'll put it like this when it comes to dealing with women in this day and age. Right? Either you meet a woman who's feminine submissive with you from the jump, and you give her enough time to develop her natural feminine submissiveness towards you to get to the point where she desires to be integrated with you, and you make her earn that, right? Earn the position she has in your life. Or you're going to have to prove how integrated you are through understanding this. Either you find a woman who's a hoe right now, she can be a hoe for you, right? Or you can bring the hoe out of her, but understand that once you bring it out, if this isn't within a certain period of time locked into a relationship, she's probably going to start hoeing off with other people. Or you can be with the woman for even years while she's in the low cup space of insecurity. And she may even be loyal to you for a long time. And understand that loyalty may not always be because she just feels like you're it. It may be because she's too insecure to go out there and try her hand at other men. She's going to find reasons to disqualify you in her mind. Right? And if you argue with this, or you go against this, or you try to convince her otherwise, she's going to see this as a lack of value for you, no matter how many other women you have. And the way you maintain that relationship dynamics, you have to cool with her not being enough hoe for you, but being all the hoe that you wanted to be for somebody else and sticking around. Or you walk away and you mean it. Those are your answers. Those are your options. There's not really no shortcuts to it. Not really. Because understand that when you give a woman an integrated validation that's separated from comparative value, right? She may not actually have the motivation. She may gain weight and not truly have the motivation to lose weight because she feels like she already has you, so why should she have to? You telling her she should lose weight will just feel like pressure, right? Maybe she sees you with other women who have lost weight and she feels like you're being drawn away some, or who are in better shape, that might motivate her a little bit. But guess what? How do you maintain your character in those situations? By prioritizing your primary partner. What takes away the feeling that she may lose you? Prioritizing your primary partner. It's a double bind. There may be certain things you want her to do sexually. If she doesn't value your validation enough, it's going to feel like pressure. Telling her how you have other women who do those things for you. It can feel like playing games unless she figures it out covertly. And she feels like this causes you to be more interested in those other women. But guess what? How do you maintain your character in these situations, your integrity? Prioritizing your primary partner. But how do you lose the value of validation? By prioritizing your primary partner. It's a cold game. Cold game. It's about the value of validation. The validational loops are about the value of validation. Once a woman has already seen you be vulnerable with her, oftentimes, unless she feels like she did something wrong based off of her own mind, and she feels like you pulling away from her is genuine, she's not going to get an extra kick in her ass to want to do something about it. If you go overtly or do things that cause insecurity, and she doesn't see it as a thing that's a natural reaction for you, which is what playing the game is, then what's going to occur is eventually she's going to view the things that you do to trigger the insecurity that get her to apply more pressure as manipulation. Another man can do the same things, but because one, he hasn't validated her on that level, and because he's not already invested in her, she can give him the benefit of the doubt. Once she knows you study game, once she knows that you have different mindsets and principles and systems in mind, if she sees it as direct or intentional, she's going to view it as manipulation. Another man can do the same exact things to her in a more covert manner. When she attaches her validational loops to him, she will give him the benefit of the doubt to the links of the earth. It's the value of validation. Right? Now, if you're in an integrated relationship with a woman who has earned your validation, or a woman who has done her shadow work and knows her worth, then she will appreciate you validating her. She will appreciate you looking at her and seeing her as beautiful. Like, let's say she just had your baby and she got some extra weight on her. They're like, oh, baby, you're still beautiful to me. You're still gorgeous. Giving her that look. She will love that. She will appreciate that. That will warm her up. She'll feel safe. She'll feel wanted. She'll feel desired. Right? That's what that type of woman. Another woman who is already low in her self-esteem, but feels like she already has you, feels like the version of you that you've accepted is what you're worth. That's your value. She doesn't see that you see something beyond that, that you have a more integrated mentality. She doesn't see that. What she sees is that the version of her that you accepted and said that you loved is the version of her that you're worth. Right? That you wanting more is pressure because you're expecting more from her than she bargained for. This does not mean that she's going to hold another man to that same standard. So if she meets another man who she projects her animus onto, her positive animus, and sees him as that guy, and he isn't immediately giving her the level of love, affection, interest, intention that you are, she's going to question herself and her ego. And when she questions herself and her ego, when she gets out the house, because oftentimes the pangos are going to be women who are at home, homebodies, which is part of the reason why you like her, because you don't think she's in niggas' face like that. She might not be, but once she does, and she meets somebody who isn't giving her the consistency of validation that you are, the intention that you are, if he isn't trying to sleep with her actively, if he isn't confessing his feelings towards her, she's going to question herself. And when she questions herself, what's going to occur? She's going to think, why doesn't he want me? And when she thinks to herself, why doesn't he want me? You know what she's going to do? She's going to listen intently to the things he says, the stories he tells about other women. She may even go stalk the women that he's dealt with online to see how those women are different than him. And then she's going to play the anima. She's going to try to replicate the things that other women that he shows more interest in, the characteristics that they have. It could be how she talks. It could be how she dresses. It could be how she carries herself. It could be the things that she's doing sexually. She's even going to go through her database in her mind of the things that you've told her that you wanted, that she didn't respect you enough to put the effort in to do. The things she wasn't attracted enough or didn't desire you enough to do. And she's going to be willing to do those things for that man in hopes that he will validate her because of it. And the funny thing is, oftentimes he won't. Oftentimes that man's not going to want her. Especially if he knows you're still in the picture. Right? Let's say she wouldn't cut off other men fully. Separate from them on social media, all this other shit, right? In order to maintain you in her life. But you stuck around. Right? She'll be willing to cut certain men out of her life, maybe even including you, to get the validation as man. And he may not even want her or ever want her back. See, there's something that happens once a woman transcends into the feminine submissive. If you're with the woman before she transcends into the feminine submissive, is you take a strong masculine dominant stance, and if she isn't willing to meet that standard, you walk the fuck away, right? And don't care what she does when you're not around. Or you have to be able to create such a high level of safety and work through your own childhood wounds, your own tethered ego and emotions, to discount the investment that you've previously made in her and the investment she's previously made in you, and to create safety regardless of what she does, right? To talk to her, to empathize with her from her point of view, to see where she's coming from, to understand her experience, which is not impossible to do. But if you've already been giving her a pass, you're already not fully happy with how she carries herself in the relationship, and you see her behavior is starting to get worse as she starts to move into the feminine submissive, she starts to chase after more validation, she starts to go through the curse of the modern woman. You may not be able to maintain that. And if you can't, then the safety that you provide, she's going to feel entitled to that. And she's going to expect you to maintain that. And if you switch up on her, she's going to get psychologically reactant. She's going to get rebellious. Then she's going to do the opposite of whatever you tell her. She's going to play it as close to the line as she can to avoid you walking away before she's secured the monkey branch. But she's going to be gradually moving away from you. Now, if you're able to maintain that safety, then she may dip off, fuck with guys from time to time. Most of them aren't going to want her back. You have to be so secure within yourself that you separate your ego from dominant experience of sexual access, from her ability to listen to you and to follow your instructions. To create such an environment of safety to where the energy that she puts out, what she feels, it naturally starts to transmute towards you. Because conscious sexual energy transmutation takes place from an integrated space. A woman who's in a low cup space, she doesn't actively do it. A woman who's in the middle cup space doesn't actively transmute energy. A woman who's freshly into the feminine submissive doesn't actively transmute energy. A woman who's higher into the feminine submissive, she can transmute energy. And a woman who's in the integrated space can transmute energy. Right? So you got decisions to make. It's all about the value of validation. Now, when you bypass the psychological reactance through creating that safety, then a lot of the sexual energy she feels towards others is naturally going to transmute towards you. But this is primarily going to be in situations in which she doesn't have full access to those men, full availability from those men who she's attracted to. So that means that there may be a period of time where a guy isn't available to her fully yet. So when she feels desire towards him, she transmutes it towards her. Or she thinks about how good you are to her, right? How unbothered you are, how emotionally bulletproof you are. And she questions herself and thinks about losing you. So she will put in the extra effort, naturally, without you having to tell her, without you having to force things. because she just wants to feel like she's coming to conclusions on her own. Now, if you're really being logical and you really think about the situation, you'd be like, well, this is what you should be doing. You should be transmuting energy. You should appreciate the fact that you have a man who's in your life who loves you. Especially if that's a dominant man. That's what you would think. That only triggers the psychological reactance. Now, if you're in limerence with her, you're caught in your feelings about her, you're stuck on her, you have all these ideas, this Madonna whore complex about her, this creates a great opportunity for you to get hurt enough to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when she does enough, you either mirror the triggers to where she walks away, or you get tired enough of her behavior to where you walk away. Give her some time. She might hit the streets. If you hurt her enough during that period of time, it's going to be some let that hurt go pussy, or she's going to sit her ass down somewhere. Then eventually she'll come back around. When she comes back around, then you either use her for whatever she's good for, or you make her start at the bottom. Make sure you get some other women during that time. But you have to know how to truly separate your emotions from the woman. Because understand, when a woman transcends into the feminine submissive, this is a new woman. This is a new relationship. This is not the same woman she used to be. You may see things you weren't expecting to see. She may do things she wasn't even expecting within herself. Like, let me give some examples, right? I've experienced some of these things. You know, based off of a woman's value of your validation, there's going to be things she's willing and able to do sexually. Because sexual attraction is more than just, does she look at you and say that you're attractive? It's more than physical attractive. It's more than competency and skill. You can actually be a great lover. It's about the value of validation. That's a big part of it. So as her attraction gets lower to you, look at Brody's scale of sexual attraction and validation and things like that. When her value of your validation is really high, she may fuck with you out in the open, outside. She may go to a cheap hotel, cheap motel. She may suck your dick when it's dirty. You haven't even showered yet, right? She may be cool. She may be a hypochondriac, but be cool with you touching on her and touching her pussy and all this other stuff when you haven't even washed your hands. As her level of sexual attraction, her value for your validation gets lower, she's going to become more in her head, more conscious. Now, as she becomes more conscious and more in her head, more inhibited, she's going to raise her standards. So she may want to go to more expensive hotels. Right? She may want you to court her more. She may appear to be more masculine in her standards towards you. This does not mean that this is across the board. Right? She may want you to wash your hands first, take a shower first before she give you head. She may have used to suck your dick first thing in the morning. She may wait until she gets off of work. And then eventually she may even hit you with the, I just don't feel like doing what I don't feel like doing. She may even be a lazy lover. Lazy in bed. You do all the work. She could even be having multiple orgasms, squirting, subspace, all that shit. Eventually, when the value of validation goes low, either she's going to emotionally disassociate and check out during sex, feeling like it's something she's doing for you, even if you're doing all the work. Or if that's not what she's doing, then her sexual response is going to go down. So typically it's going to be one or the other, because really she's doing a masculine submissive exercise in self-control, hanging on to the attachment she has towards you. But that attachment isn't based off of the value of the validation. It's based off of the consistency and the quantity of validation she receives from you. Right? So it may drop down. Certain things she was willing to do, she's not going to be willing to do anymore. This doesn't mean this is across the board. This doesn't mean that her standards are truly raising. This means that her interest in you is lowering. And the more you communicate and try to work on things, the more it's going to lower. The less respect she's going to have for you. She may start to communicate with you in a way that seems like it's narcissistic devaluation. If you have a woman who at different points in time you've checked the fuck out of her, then she may not be willing to overtly disrespect you, but covertly she's going to disrespect the fuck out of you. She's going to say things that are hurtful, that are devaluing, that show a lack of respect, a lack of receptiveness to your ideology, to your way of thinking, and she's going to gaslight you, right? She's going to gaslight you. And she may even say what she has a problem with is your idea of what it means for you to be respected. Right? She doesn't want to be on your program. So what does this mean? This doesn't mean that this is who she is across the board. This means that this is how she feels about you in particular. Now, one thing that I've had the experience of is that as long as this woman is relatively honest and she's faithful or she's loyal, not fucking with nobody else, which doesn't mean that she wouldn't, just mean she hasn't met the right guy yet for that. She may gaslight you and assign these reasons that she's not being as available to you sexually or receptive to you as she used to be psychologically. She may blame it on depression. She may really have depression and go to a therapist about it. She may have hormonal issues. She may really be taking medicine for it. She may blame it on her body image issues. She may really have body image issues. The way you gauge the truth in these things is if she's willing to do the work to repair the issues that she says causes her to be less receptive and less available. So when we're talking about cup theory, understand that the value of validation plays such a big role in cup theory. Plays such a big role, right? Because if the value of your validation is high enough, then you have penis power. What penis power does is it creates a scenario in which your influence has an added boost of motivation for her to do the things that allow her to gain your validation. This also makes her more sexually receptive. So how you can gauge these things, and I will say this, we got to understand the difference between soft skills and hard skills, right? So there's different levels of it. A lot of this applies to the pacifier principle. So let's say once a woman has had a sexual experience enough times, this no longer is, it becomes a biological function rather than something that's connected to her emotions, right? So if it's vaginal orgasm from penetration, if she's never had them before and she's in her masculine energy with you, then chances are she's not going to start having them now, right? Or how close she gets lower. I remember one time, man, I was dealing with a woman and it took years for her to have her first vaginal orgasm for penetration. What I had to do to give her first vaginal orgasm for penetration was recognizing that she only got close when she felt like I was getting close, regardless of how long we were having sex. It could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 2-3 hours. So one time we were having sex and I said I was getting close about 2 to 4 minutes early because she would only get close when I was getting close. I'm like, you never had one before, so it's going to take you about 2 to 4 minutes after I say I'm getting close, or after you say you're getting close for you come. So I was like, all right, cool. I said it early, and I took it there. Right? Now, once you have those new experiences, you have to ride the wave of the momentum to move it up. So within a few weeks of her first orgasm penetration, she went up to having multiples, went up to subspace. You know, she was already having, crying during sex, but it went up to crygasms, subspace, squirting within a couple weeks or a couple months from that point. And also, it's a bunch of different experiences that took place. You got to ride the momentum, maintain the momentum. If her cup gets low, then the momentum is going to be dampered down. It's going to feel like it's taking too much work and energy from you. Very important concept to understand, right? Now, when it comes to these type of scenarios, what you have to understand is when you ride the momentum, once a certain experience has been set in consistently and it's locked into her body as a natural biological function, then she can do it very easily. But certain things are telltale signs that a woman has her submissiveness lubricated with feminine energy. One of those things is her desire to have sex with you, right? So vaginal intercourse. When a woman starts getting more in her masculine energy, then she's doing a level of transmutation. She might take the energy that you're pouring in so that she has the energy to want to suck your dick from the pacifier principle, right? So she may want to give you head but not have sex, because having sex is stretching her more than she wants to be stretched by you, right? She may want to fuck somebody else. She may not do it, but she may want to. But it feels too stretching for the experience she wants to have with you based off of her respect level for you and the value of the validation. Big ones are her throat, right? So if we're talking sexually, she's not going to want to give you head with no hands, right? So I love the two-hand twist as much as the next man. That's one of my favorite things. She's going to be overly reliant on hard skills sexually, meaning that rather than her trying to take you as deep as she can into her throat, she's going to just want to suck on the head, use the hand, slurp on it, do things that take hard skills, and not even use all of the skills that she has. That doesn't mean she's going to feel that way about another man. Even if you talk to her about it, when you talk to her about things and she feels like you're expecting or requiring or asking more effort of her, this is going to create psychological reactance, and she's going to rebel against it. She's not going to want to do sex acts that take too much control on your side. So that means she may not want you to fuck her face. It does mean she's going to feel that way about another man. Right? Every once in a while, a new experience may be something that's exciting to her. But understand this. The more a woman has sex with you from a space of not being in her feminine energy, and she's in the masculine submissive exercise and self-control, even if you're in a relationship, she's building up her no-limit soldier capacity. Meaning that she's building up her capacity to have sexually disassociated sex, right? Or emotionally disassociated sex. Meaning that whatever capacity she has for you, when she's not in the feminine submissive, is something that turns into hard skills that she can do transactionally for money or for validation, right? Because there's going to be some things that take a greater level of feminine energy. So it's very important to understand about sex. So like for one woman, deep throating may be something that she'll need to be in the feminine submissive, be in a high state of desire, higher level of feminine energy to do. When she's done it enough times, it will become a hard skill that she can do on her own, just with a cucumber or a dildo. That's when it becomes a hard skill. That means she can even do it from a masculine energy place rather than a feminine energy place, right? But if she's never done it before and you want her to do it, it creates psychological reactance. She's not trying to do that. She's going to try to take it deep. And when she tries to take it deep, she's going to gag a little bit, and she's going to not be willing to push herself past it. If there's enough feminine energy there, then you can push past it. You can rip the Band-Aid. She can rip the Band-Aid by ripping the Band-Aid. That experience is there. If she enjoys that experience, there's a high enough value of validation. Her seeing your pleasure or your excitement about that experience will turn her on enough to where she wants to keep doing it. She wants to keep trying it. She wants to keep going for it. Right? Right? But if it's a situation where the value of validation isn't high enough, then no matter what you say or what you do, she's not trying to do it. If you try to grab on her head, she's going to buck against you. Right? Another one, cervical orgasms, cervical stimulation. Because understand this, if a woman's aroused enough, any body part that has a high concentration of nerve endings can become orgasmic. It could be feet, it could be your throat, right? It could be her ass, it could be her cervix, it could be anything. It could be her nipples. All right, because I dealt with a woman for a long time who most of the time she masturbated, she didn't even really masturbate through her clitoris, she would masturbate through her nipples. So even if she wasn't highly aroused, she could still masturbate through her nipples. Once the value of validation started to drop and her respect began to go lower and her desire began to become lower, when we were younger, at a different period of time, I could just brush across her nipple at random and she would get turned on and horny. That would trigger arousal. And by the arousal getting triggered, she would be ready to go. Right? As time went on and the respect got lower and the value of validation became lower, then we could even be full on having sex, but she wouldn't want me to touch her nipples because if it wasn't aroused enough, if she wasn't aroused enough, then that would feel too uncomfortable. It would feel too abrasive. It'll feel too intense for her. See, one of the biggest red flags to keep track of when it comes to dealing with a woman is things she's willing to do that stretch her. When things that trigger arousal stop triggering arousal, that's a problem. When things she was open to, she becomes less open to, that's a problem. Because understand, a lot of this is the animus, right? Animus possession. A woman oftentimes is going to see herself as being nice. Now, some women are going to actively lie, but if you have a woman who has half decent character, then chances are she's not going to actively lie. She's going to give excuses. These excuses come from the animus. This is social programming. So what the social programming does is a woman will come up with different reasons that sound logical, that give a good enough excuse as to why she's not being as available to you. And when she gives you said excuses, these excuses will be what she uses to manipulate you to maintain the level of investment you're making in her, while her giving less investment. Right? Very important to understand when it comes to sex. All right, very important to understand when it comes to sex. So she may blame her depression. She may blame her mental state. She may blame her cup space. Understand that part of what comes with cup space is this: attraction, right? Because with attraction is the value of validation. With the value of validation, it's going to be how much energy you pour into her cup, the quality of the energy, and her perception of the quality of energy that you pour into her cup. So if a man has mostly shown that he doesn't like her and she likes him, and he does a little bit of something that shows forward movement and giving her validation, then this is going to make her whole day, right? If she's entitled and she's used to gaining this level of validation, a narcissistic supply from you, but the value of validation has gone lower, right? Then you can do a whole bunch of shit for her and it's only going to fill her cup up a little bit, right? And once you're in a position where you're pretty much trading emotional validation, social validation, or financial investment in her for sex, sexual access, for energy, for all these different things, then it becomes transactional. Once it becomes transactional, then when she's receptive to you, it's going to come from a place of masculine energy. Masculine energy stifles submissiveness. And over time, the value of that validation goes down, that respect goes down. Because understand this, at a certain level of understanding, respect is insecurity, right? Just like I say, influence and manipulation are oftentimes one and the same, depending on the context. Respect and insecurity are the same. It works the same way, right? And what does that mean? That for a woman to respect you oftentimes means that she's going to be insecure when it comes to you, meaning that she desires your approval for the decisions that she makes and how she does things. That means when she does something, she's going to want to feel that you're happy with what she did. When she wants to feel as if you're happy with what she did, that means she respects you. When she no longer cares if you're happy with the decisions that she makes and how she does things, that's when she doesn't respect you. Simple. That's the simplest way to put it. So it's a gradual progression of going down, right? And oftentimes you have to understand that when a woman's attempting to get over on you, when a woman's attempting to I'm trying to figure out the word for you, to subvert you, to subvert your leadership, she's going to ask for things she knows she doesn't deserve, right? That could be a certain level of communication. That could be a certain level of understanding, a certain level of compromise when you've already compromised. This can be a certain level of investment. This could be a certain title, certain level of social validation, right? Like, and understand this, when a woman gets in that psychologically reactive mind state, sometimes she's expecting a no. And understand this, man, sometimes a woman asks you for exactly what she needs. And even though it may sound hurtful, she's asking you for what she needs. Sometimes when a woman asks you for space, you just got to give her more space than she wants. I always give a woman more space than she wants. And you ain't got to explain it to her neither. Just actually be busy. Because that space gives her space to develop attraction, to rebuild her attraction. But understand this, you can't integrate with a woman who's in that insecure space of only wanting what she feels like she can't have. That's not the feminine submissive. Because when a woman's in that state of mind, it's a little bit closer to a higher level of insecurity and closer to a higher level of just wanting what she can't have, because you want to deal with a woman who you can communicate with directly and she's able to pick up what you're putting down, right? Like, understand that giving a woman plausible deniability is a certain level of validation, right? Because that's a woman who wants to feel as if she's intrinsically desirable. She wants to feel pre-qualified for the validation that she gains instead of earning the validation. That doesn't mean she's going to feel that way about another man. It doesn't mean that, right? Sometimes a woman will just do things, like, let's say you give a woman instructions. I remember one time I was in a position with a woman just like this, right? I was. And when I was in that position, one thing I told her one day, all right, because I was her daddy dom, I told her, check this out. I'm about to cook your favorite dinner tonight. Because keep it a buck. She loved my cooking more than anybody else's cooking. I said, I'll make your favorite dinner tonight. Make sure you're hungry when you come through. Right? I told her to make sure she was hungry when she came through. She came through that night. Drove an hour and a half to see me. Cool. When she came through, I had the food ready. She told me she went and grabbed something to eat before she came through. And I was a little disappointed. But I was like, it's all good. I ain't tripping. Right? And that night, she got in her head about that. And she was just like, she felt safe because I didn't trip on the fact that she didn't follow instructions. Now, that's what I'm talking about. It's that integrated level of safety. That night, a switch got turned. She was ready to suck the dick when it was dirty. I ain't even took a shower yet. Called me in a laundry room washing clothes, wanted to suck my dick on the washing machine. But how much of that shit can you take of being in a situation where a woman just turns on her feminine energy because you didn't get mad at her for not doing what the fuck you told her to do? That shit gets old, right? That's where it becomes an issue. Because let's say it's a socially connected situation. Let's say she's making you look bad out here in these streets with how she carrying herself. You know, I remember one time there was a situation where same woman, she, what did she do? She was looking at her weight and she felt insecure about her body, right? I was making her feel safe, right? She was feeling real safe with me, you know? So she came through, she was thinking about her body, thinking about how she gained weight. She felt insecure. This insecurity turned into strengthening the value of my validation. So when she came through, she was on go. When I say the bitch was ready, right? Some of the best sex we ever had. But understand this, that's her going into her own head, creating her own insecurities to strengthen the value of your validation by lessening her own self-worth based off of comparative value. If you seek to do this to a woman overtly, she's going to see it as manipulation. But the truth is, that's really what needs to happen in order for things to be more sustainable. Right? Very important concept to understand. So, it's a lot of different ways of looking at these things. But you got to ask yourself that question, you know? Are you willing to provide a woman safety who's not following instructions, who's not putting in the work consistently? Because I remember I got to a space where I was attempting to move into the integrated masculine with a woman. Because we've been together for a long time. I wanted things to work out. A lot of it wasn't just because of me. A lot of it is because I'm like, yo, we done spent all this time together. We should be moving forward a little bit better than this. She felt like I should be taking more responsibility for how things was going. I would listen to different content creators like, you know what, maybe I should take more responsibility. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me not be emotionally reactive. Let me not get mad about stuff. Let me keep it cool. And we got to a really good space. But in that space, she then again would have her moments of backsliding off of doing the things that would keep her cup full. So what's an example of that? So let's say you're dealing with a woman and she deals with depression, hormonal issues, body image issues, binge eating. This creates a loop. This creates a cycle. So the cycle is getting the impulse to overeat, right? then getting the impulse to overeating, then dealing with inflammation and spikes in the hormones and a dump of insulin, right? This leading to inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the body leading to grogginess, leading to sluggishness, leading to laziness, leading to a lack of exercise, a sedentary lifestyle. Guilt. This guilt leading to feeling depressed, right? As this goes on, seeing a gain in weight leads to further body image issues, which exacerbates the depression, which exacerbates the body image issues, which leads to a desire to want to impulsively indulge to soothe that insecurity. And that would just create a cycle, right? But when you haven't done your shadow work and you're trying to explain this to someone, then they'll just continue down that cycle. Trying to help with this will lead to them feeling pressure, and that pressure will lead to self-condemnation, self-judgment. This self-judgment will lead to not accepting yourself where you are. And then because if a woman already feels as if she has you, or already feels like she has your validation, or feels entitled to you loving her and to being attracted to her, then what's going to occur is this. She's going to not value the validation that she gives you and probably seek the validation of other men. And she's going to use the value of that validation of wanting other men to approve of her who haven't already, grass is greener on the other side syndrome, to motivate herself to be willing to put in the work. But she's not putting in that work to benefit you. She's going to say it's for her, but she's putting in that work because she wants to earn the approval of other men. Now, whoever she's willing to earn the approval of is going to be who she's ultimately submissive towards. Right? So this is Coach Brody on the value of validation in sex. I'm out.